In today's episode of Unemployable, we have something very special, a big announcement right at the start, which is, you'll just have to wait and see. And after that, I really encourage you to stick through the end of this pod because it's one of those pods that got better and better and better. And right in the back sort of quarter, it got into some epic conversation and real specific examples about what we're talking about. We talked about the new ChatGPT Ads platform that's going to be rolling out. We talked about the creator economy and shared some numbers that we have never shared before from our own experience just from 2025 with our own podcast revenue that was created as a result of people getting attention in the economy that is now emerging. We talk about Elon Musk's comments about deflation, and Mark went deep on the impact of deflation and how it's actually not good for society, but there's good news wrapped in with it. And we talked about what we're doing in our own lives and businesses right now. But this one, honestly, guys, I promise you, if you stick to the last quarter of this and go all the way to the end, there is some phenomenal content for you this week. You're going to love it. As always, drop a comment, like and subscribe, and let's jump right in and get to that big announcement. Well, guys, let's get straight into it with the big announcement for the day, which is that this will be my last Friday podcast with you guys. I think some of the audience has seen this coming for a while, but we're going into an exciting new phase of the podcast here at Unemployable, which we're going to talk about. And so we'll start off with that story. But before we do, I just want to check in. How you all doing? Mark, you well?
Yeah, doing good.
Yeah. Eric, all good?
Yeah, very good. I'm just admiring how slim Mark's looking. Actually, you're looking slim, mate. You got the chin line going. Hey, you're looking good, man. Well done yourself.
It's the new lens on the camera you bought, Eric. I can get you one from JB Hi-Fi if you want one.
It's the tighter tops too. You start wearing. Hey, when you get a little bit leaner, you start wearing tighter tops. The best comment last week, by far, my favorite comment was someone just wrote Mark Antonio Banderas de Paula.
I saw that. I love it.
It's good to see it paying off, buddy. Good to see it paying off. So, look, let's jump straight into this one. So, guys, I made the very difficult decision in the last week that I will be no longer doing the Friday sessions. And I want to just talk to that a little bit for the audience as to why. And I think the big cornerstone of this decision is that as a podcast, we started this thing 2 years ago, and we started off just complete amateurs. We'd never recorded a podcast. We didn't know really what we were going to talk about. We sort of started off modeling the Patrick Bet David show. Then we found our group and we started talking a lot more about what we're doing in our own businesses. And then we started to bring entrepreneurs in. And then we had our first political podcasts and guests that were sort of around the ecosystem of free thinking people, but not necessarily business people. And the show evolved. And I think what we've seen is that, or what we've perhaps fallen victim to in some way is the incentive structure within the content world. Incentive structures that we didn't really fully appreciate until you start getting into them. What I mean by that is, obviously when you have a team and you have resources, and Unemployable started off with the four of us and a cameraman and an editor, and that was it. And now it's a business, we have a bunch of people operating and all that. You have to keep an eye on what's actually working. What are people clicking on? What content are people engaging with? What attracts subscribers and all that sort of stuff. And as those of you who followed the show from the start know, we've evolved, and of late, we've been talking a lot more about what's going on in Australia, which for the most part is quite sad at the moment. We've got a real lack of leadership. And added to that is, and the world is that, the incentive structures in these platforms like YouTube and social media are such that attention is what they want. And to do that, there's nothing more effective than rage, anger, frustration, and, and then when you've got four guys who love Australia that are upset about the direction of the country, it's, red meat for the algorithms, and it attracts people to the show. But the question is it the subject that is bringing us joy as individuals? Is it adding to the discussion? Is it helping people grow? and become financially free so they can enjoy more time with their loved ones and their kids, which is really what Unemployable is really at its heart all about. It's about helping people who want a better life. And by better life, we mean more time, a little bit more optionality, that kind of stuff. That's what Unemployable is really all about. So the show sort of moved in a direction that I certainly wasn't finding a lot of joy in. I was finding a lot of clicks in, but not a lot of joy. And I've worked for 30 years as an entrepreneur, mostly risking everything, saving, investing. So at the end of it, get to the age of 50, I don't want to be involved in getting people angry. I don't want to be angry myself. And so we as a group have decided, look, let's get back to helping Australians create wealth, create optionality, create more time with their families and become unemployable. That's what we want to do. And the problem for me is that I'm now 51 years old and I'm not that interested in small business either. I've done 30 years in those trenches. And I think there are genuinely hand on heart people that would be better to lead that discussion at Unemployable, younger people with more energy that are more close to the things that are going to make the most difference for our audience right now. And one of the subjects we're going to talk about in a minute is, ads being launched on ChatGPT. This is a huge opportunity. Usually when these ad platforms launch, there's arbitrage, right? There's this moment in time while they're trying to establish the ad platforms where that attention, those ads are grossly underpriced. And there's huge opportunity for entrepreneurs. Do I want to talk about it? Not really. I'm at a time in my life where I want to have deep, slow conversations with people that I find genuinely interesting. And so my contribution going forward is still going to be to Unemployable. I'm still going to distribute content here, but I'm going to be doing it on my own terms. So I'm going to basically produce content that I want to talk about, which at the moment is anything around Bitcoin and freedom maximalism, and also lifestyle and people who've made big decisions in their lives that have improved the quality of their lives. And I want to sit down with them and have a cup of tea and say, how did you move to that little Greek island? What was involved? What's it like there? What's daily life like on the ground? How do you feel inside of your heart? Those are the kinds of conversations that I want to have, and I'm going to be experimenting with and bringing those to Unemployable in a show that might morph. So at the moment I have the sat signal. I might be just do something like freedom money, which encapsulates all things Bitcoin and freedom maximalism and people making lifestyle choices to improve the quality of their lives. So that's it in a nutshell. And I just wanted to say a huge thank you to the audience. This show has taken off. It's going to continue to grow. We may not get as many subs, but I think we're going to get an audience that really appreciates high quality, practical wealth creation advice from guys that are actually doing it on a day-to-day basis. So with that, I'll just open it over to you guys and any comments that you want to add or thoughts around this before we dive into the other stories.
It's happening. We're running a 2-day property development event at the Luxury Mondrian Hotel in Burleigh Heads here on the Gold Coast, and we want you there. Because if property development is even on your radar, this will save you years of guessing. Over 2 days, you'll see how deals are actually found, how people fund them without having to be rich, and how projects go from the idea to actually being built. You'll hear from people doing it right now, with special guest Michael Matusik, Australia's leading property analyst and commentator on what the market is actually doing right now. Funding specialists showing you how money actually flows. You'll leave knowing what your next move should be. Check the link below, grab your early bird tickets now, and let's start developing.
Yeah, I mean, when you're in something like a podcast, like what we've been doing, we've been pivoting, right? Like you said, we started with wealth creation and entrepreneurship, and then a little bit around the politics and what's happening in Australia and what's happening in the world and kind of doom and gloom kind of topics. But then we really started listening to the audience through comments and through DMs. It's funny because since we've been talking about this, I've got multiple DMs from people and voice notes all saying, hey, love what you guys are doing, love the, the politics as well, but I'd love if you guys went back to talking about, business and how to and wealth creation and these types of topics. So it's just funny how when you put that energy out, you start realizing it comes back in. And last Friday podcast, there was plenty of comments that were talking about, hey, you guys should be talking more about this and more talking about that. So we're listening. And the thing is, we will still continue doing political podcasts, right? But we're only top level political podcasts. Because I think it is important to still understand what's happening in the country that we are in, but not immerse ourselves too much in it to the point where it's full of negativity and doom and gloom, because life is hard enough. We don't have to make it harder. What we need to do is start looking at things that are more positive, and different ways to create wealth and generational wealth and really freedom for yourself. And like Adam said, Adam is in a different stage in his life, right? We are still here building businesses. We're, doing property developments, setting up new businesses, which Mark will mention, I'm sure, in a sec, what we've been up to. And it's relatable content because we're actually doing it. The great content that Adam will keep putting out is what he's actually doing, right? He's being a freedom maximalist. He has sold everything. He's traveling the world. He's testing new places on where he wants to live. And not many people can do that, but many people are inspired by that, because what you need to do first is build a business, make money, invest wisely. And then when you're 51 years old, as an example, or even younger, depending on what trajectory you're on, you could be at that point like Adam and say, hey, you know what? I'm over the Ferraris and the Porsches and the house in all the rubbish. I just want to be free and have cups of tea with people that are in the same kind of mindset as us. So I just look at it as stages, right? And at Unemployable, what we want to do is talk about the different stages on where you're at. And some people will love the content that Adam's putting out and what he's doing with the sat signal through Unemployable. And then some people will love about the business content or the property content or the wealth creation content, the Bitcoin content. And we can tap into each in one of those. Like I said to Adam, I said, Adam has been blessed with a teaching ability, right? That I don't have, that Mark doesn't have, that James doesn't have, but we all have our own abilities and we've all been blessed in different ways. So the podcast will be different, right? But we will continue to strive to give good content, bring great people on, and still have Adam part, obviously, of the team. So I want to make sure that everyone just doesn't think this is the end of Adam and he's going to fall off the face of the earth. And that's not the case. It's what we're really going to be doing now is let's talk about the stuff that we really enjoy talking about.
Just to mark 1 second, there's been 3 pieces of content I've recorded already in the last 48 hours for the 4 shows on Unemployable, but just not the Friday episode. Yeah. Mark.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and I think there's got to be a distinction with relation to politics, and this is something that we've spoken a lot about behind the scenes. But politics is still extremely relevant to making money and wealth creation, probably more so than any time in the last 4 years, right? Like I've said this many times, but if you watched the 2010 movie The Social Network, which was all about Facebook, there's not one political mention in the whole movie. It's impossible today to make a movie about social media without it being intertwined completely with politics. You've got the Davos Forum at the moment where you've got all the politicians and world leaders, and a lot of them are talking about things like infrastructure build-outs and AI. And so politics is still extremely relevant to making money, to being unemployable, and to creating wealth. And I think the distinction is to speak about politics with relation to those opportunities rather than to get caught up in culture wars and low frequency discussions that, just bring vitriol in the comments and don't actually serve the listeners, right? Like if you're a type of person that wants to sit at home and be angry, that's fine. But I think the distinction that we're making here is that we want the show always to be producing value and not just to be a back and forth on the latest rage or culture debate.
And one thing is, we will have a fourth person, right? We're talking to a few people at the moment. We just want to make sure we're going to pick the right one that can fill the seat. And it's not someone that is replacing Adam, as an example. It's just someone that's going to fill the spot and bring their own value and their own journey to the Unemployable team, right? The Unemployable fabric. So it'll be just a little bit different. And yeah, we're looking forward to it, because I'm looking forward to the content that Adam will be putting out, looking forward to, the different types of content that we're going to be continuously talking about that will help, people. That's what we really want to do, right? We want to get people at a point where, like your job right now, right? Like I had 2 doctors in the studio over the last week going, I'm a doctor, right? One's a cardiologist. The other one is a cosmetic surgeon, and it's not enough. So like we're at a point in our lives now where your great job that you thought was amazing and you're making good money is not enough anymore. Your business that you thought was, pumping along quite nicely, it's not enough anymore. And we want to provide you different angles, different options, right? Different stories. So that way you can see what your next side hustle, your next opportunity is going to be. And we'll continue to bring that to you guys.
And I think the key point on that, Eric, is that the 3 of us are going to be in that mode ourselves. Like we are going to be out there grinding and hustling and trying to improve our own lives. And we hope that the best way for us to add value to you guys is to show you guys what we're doing. And it's been amazing to kind of watch Adam's current journey, like post business hustle, and watching his investment journey, and just kind of seeing the art of making less decisions, right? But decisions that can have huge ROI. And so, I'm looking forward to kind of watching Adam get deep into those conversations and watch those shows, because for me, that's like a future chapter that I look forward to as well, that I want to learn about still as I'm out there grinding. So
Yeah,
I think
I made a comment to Adam on the phone, and we'll move on after this. Is I said, let's start talking less about what's happening in the world and start talking more about what's happening in our worlds. Because I think that's where the most relatable content will come from for a lot of the audience. Because the thing is, with the audience, we've got the subscribers, we've got the followers, but other than the comments that we receive in the DMs, we really don't know who's listening, which is very odd, right?
So to that end, guys, just drop a comment down below. Just let us know your thoughts and feelings on this part would be very helpful, because we really do use them as a guiding stick.
And we don't think that we're any, we don't think that we're any different to the people watching this show, right? Like I don't think that there's any accident. It's no accident that the 4 of us have kind of been in a state of flux the last 6 to 12 months, trying to work out the next chapter and the next move forward. That's because that's where the macro's at. Everything is at the moment changing so quickly that your job, the way we do business, all of these things are changing so quickly. So you're watching us adjust in real time. And so I guarantee that there's going to be, a lot of you out there that are listening that are a little bit more business orientated or trying to get into that space that are feeling exactly the same way. And, my message would be, don't get down on that. Don't take that personal, because that is a symptom of the macro and the environment that we're in. It's not, any deficiencies with anyone individually. Don't be discouraged about being confused, because that is usually means you're going to lead to a breakthrough if you stick at it.
100%.
I just want to finish this with one comment that I think, 2 comments actually, I think are helpful. Number one, I hope that every listener here takes one lesson away from this, which is to take stock of actually how you're feeling in life. And if you're not happy, be prepared to have the conversations or readdress your relationship with certain things. So for example, social media is something I'm really readdressing my exposure to and involvement with my socials, right? I told everybody in the last pod, I pulled down 95 videos off my Instagram that many of which were producing the most subscribers. I was growing at 1,000, 2,000 subs every week or two. And I pulled all those videos down because they were not bringing me joy. They were not bringing me followers that were happy. They were outraged, angry followers, because that's what the content was promoting. So that's one. But the other thing I just wanted to comment on was, this was one of those conversations. Like, everybody has these things in their life where they look at it and they go, oh my God, this thing is just not bringing me joy. It could be something you're doing in your business, could be a relationship you're in, and there's a difficult conversation to be had. And so sitting down with Eric and Perry, who are sort of my business partners, and these guys are now coming in as business partners this year as well, Mark and James with equity in the pod. But sitting down with Eric and Perry is not a fun meeting to call to say, hey guys, I want to stop doing the Friday pod. And I just want to acknowledge Eric and Perry because they were phenomenal business partners through this. The first thing they said was, are you okay? Like, what's happening with you? Like, because they could see the weight of this. They could feel it in the pods leading up to now. And some of the audience in the comments could see that I was just not happy. And their first concern was for me and my mental health. And then, okay, let's solve this problem together. That's mature business relationships. And I wish for everybody out there that's in business to have partners like that are willing to have a conversation that's difficult without making it about them, and actually making it about, first of all, the person, and then second of all, hey, there's always solutions to this. And I honestly believe the show's going to go on and be bigger and better than ever. Have those hard conversations, because your life is sacred, your life is special, and it's worth more than just struggling through doing something that you're not happy about. Now I just feel this levity and actually excitement for the content that I'm able to produce on the terms I want to produce it. And I know I'm still going to add value to the show and the audience. And I know this show is going to serve the audience better as well. So with that said, let's move on to the first story outside of this, which is ChatGPT launching ads. And I'm going to handball this one to you, Eric, because I know you've got some data on it. As I said at the start, usually when these platforms launch, when Twitter ads first came out and when TikTok ads first came out, there was enormous arbitrage, massive opportunity for people to grow their brands. And we all know that search has sort of moved from Google to AI. Everybody's just on Grok or OpenAI and typing in what they're looking for rather than using Google search engines. So how do we make money from this, Eric? What are the stats? What's happening?
Yeah, it was quite interesting because there's been, a few people talking about this. There's some YouTube videos and bits and pieces. And, the CEO once said, ads would be a last resort, right, on ChatGPT.
I think there's a signpost there. Talk about
Yeah,
later.
right. So, but some interesting stats, right? You've got at the moment, these are give or take numbers, about 900 million active users that are using ChatGPT on a regular basis. But they're predicting that by 2030, a third of the world will be using it, which is a lot of eyeballs. But the issue with OpenAI and these types of businesses is they're very, very expensive to run, obviously. And again, roundabout numbers, but in 2025, the revenue was roughly about $4.3 billion a year, obviously based on subscriptions, because that's the model, but most people still use it for free. And that's the problem, right? Like, there's still a lot of people that are using ChatGPT for free. But their costs are about 7.8 billion. So if you just use those kind of raw numbers, they're about, 3 billion, 3.5 billion or so loss year after year after year at the continued growth. And that loss will just continue because most people will, again, use it for free. So they've done stuff like recently they just hired a lady named Fiji Simo, which was part of the Facebook fabric in regards to helping the business build their ads business within Facebook. Well, OpenAI just hired her. So it's actually happening. And yeah, it's just interesting because I look at this as a couple things, right? One is the user experience, because I think a lot of people use ChatGPT because
As a developer of any kind, I would never.
right? Because for multiple reasons, but one of them is there's no ads. Like, how good is it going onto a platform and you're not being bombarded by ad after ad after ad after ad after, is this an AI video? Is this real? Is this not? You're just, researching information, and hopefully it's giving you the most relevant information. So one is, what's the user experience now going to look like? Does that change the trust in the user experience, going, okay, well, is this just giving me the information now because it's just saying this person's paying the most money for the ads to be here? All this type of, how relevant is that going to become? And then the other side to that, obviously, as a business owner, right, the opportunity at hand now, that not only can you run Google ads, not only can you run Facebook ads, you're not, Instagram ads, you're now going to be able to run ads through ChatGPT, which, if this is correct, in the next 4 years, a third of the population are actually going to be looking at it. When you actually start looking at numbers, there's going to be a lot of population that are, adolescents and children that wouldn't be on ChatGPT anyways. There's going to be a big portion of the population that won't be on ChatGPT because they're in, third world countries and these types of things. So when you actually look at the active retail client, a lot of them are going to be on this platform, and I think it's just going to be a massive opportunity. I'd love to get your guys' thoughts on what you guys think of it from a business owner, right? So let's put a business owner cap on now and go, holy shit, when this thing launches, right, what are we going to do?
Like, firstly, like any new ad platform, when they hit the market, you're buying traffic far cheaper than the established platforms. So it'll be a land grab to get your footprint in there. But secondly, the ad targeting will be interesting to see how that unfolds. I mean, there are people who use Google and Google search get targeted, and Facebook, and based on your preferences. But with ChatGPT, it's fairly well, anyway, the way I use ChatGPT, it pretty much knows exactly who I am, because I run everything through it. And when I'm having a tough day, I'll have a conversation about, look, Mark's previously put some prompts in quite some time ago. You talk about your finances, you talk about everything with it. You probably talk a bit more, or chat with ChatGPT a bit more than you do with Google, or a bit more than you do with a hell of a lot more than Facebook. I mean, Facebook's what was a fun place to be. It's now obviously monetized, but and Google's where you used to get your information, but and I laugh at that. But yeah, ChatGPT pretty much it gets all my input first about, as I said, personal finance, business, a whole lot, so that we can see the targeting that would be available from it as a business owner.
I think that I was laughing, James, because I was thinking, at ChatGPT is like the therapist you actually talk to, and Google's like the creepy, bugging CIA outfit that listens to everything anyway. How many times have you had a coffee with somebody and then you open your phone and there's the ad for the very thing that you were just talking about?
Yeah.
Because they listen to everything anyway. I think they're pretty adept. But it is true. I get what you're saying.
I sort of said Facebook used to be a fun place to be. I don't even log into it anymore. I'm pretty anti-social, as everyone sort of knows, is because when you log into these apps now, it's just a fucking wall of ads. Like, you get, I think there's now, it's 2 posts, 1 ad, or whatever. I don't know what the ratio is now. It's just like I just been left alone. And to that point about user experience, I'll just go back to that for a minute, Eric. Like, we had this conversation last night. We're in the studio late here doing some planning. Was about I could just gone blank. Completely blank. Sorry.
Well, what else?
Sorry. Yeah. So user experience. We're talking about I don't watch TV at all. I don't have anything to do with mainstream media whatsoever. I don't look at any news sites online. I don't scalp any headlines for political stuff. I stay, and that was back. There's a couple of points here going on about from where Adam was going, and Mark was sort of saying, well, politics is relevant. Just the noise of it all. That's why I don't watch TV at all. I don't ever buy the paper. I don't read the thing. I don't have a subscription to the Gold Coast Bulletin. None of it. I just steer right clear of it. Probably a bit ignorant to do so, but I do, or arrogant, which way we're going to call it. So I only watch YouTube. And so from a user experience thing, I pay for YouTube Premium. Therefore, I have 0 ads. So I'm wondering on the for a paid user, is it a ploy or a play to get people to go from, hey, if you want ad free, pay the $20 a month for ChatGPT, and I do that for YouTube. So I appeal for the fact that I consume everything on YouTube, and I get 0 ads. So I mean, if that's a user experience, would you think it'd be wise to follow that move?
I think they will definitely start with ads on the free platform first, right? That obviously makes sense because there's going to be a lot more eyeballs on the free platform than there is going to be on the paid platform. But I also look at it going like how interactive that it could be, right? Just keeping asking questions. Like obviously you're looking at something, then all of a sudden you see this, item that all of a sudden it's like, oh, actually that looks pretty cool. And you could just keep asking, right, the GPT questions about it and dig and have this interactive conversation to the point where you're like, I am sold. You can't have that on Instagram as an example. On Instagram, you're going to look at it on Instagram, you're going to click on it on Instagram, you got to go to the web page, and half the web people's websites are fucking shit. So when you actually want to go and get information on the product, they don't have all the information. You got to dig through, you're scrolling. Whereas here, you could just ask all the questions you want. It'll answer to you exactly what you need. And you can just go click, right, straight to purchase, finished. And that's interesting.
As a purchaser, if you know that the answer that the model is giving you based on advertising dollars being spent, how likely are you going to continue to use that model, right? Like
I think the other thing, the trust, right?
Yeah. So do we know how these ads are going to be displayed? Because I honestly think it's a huge red flag. I think I said 6 months ago that of all the LLMs, ChatGPT probably won't make it. Because if these models become commoditized, which they will, there'll be a commodity layer of the AI application stack. Then you're only as good as your training and reference data. And you've got YouTube, Gemini, which has YouTube. You've got Grok, which has X, and now you've got Claude Anthropic, who's like just completely blitzing AI on the corporate agentic front and the coding front. So I think it's
one more. You've got Apple just doing a deal with Gemini now as well.
Yeah, with Google. Yeah, the iPhone Siri.
Yeah, they missed the boat with the AI revolution. So you've got the old tech partnering up with the new tech, and they get forming their alliances. So they'll throw that one last one in there, Mark.
If you kind of have a look at what Claude Anthropic is doing now versus what Copilot does, like Copilot is such a big, ginormous, flaming piece of shit compared to what these guys at these frontier models are able to create, right? And it's like Apple has botched Siri, and I feel like OpenAI is kind of gonna botch their significant lead that they've got because they really don't have an edge versus their competitors at the moment. Their UX is probably better, and I think that thing that's keeping a lot of people there, to James's point before, is the fact that OpenAI knows your history. Like I used to use it every day. Now I hardly use it. I still think everybody needs to be using all of the big models until it becomes clear who's best at doing what. But I wonder from the ad point of view, how the ads will be shown. Like as a business owner, I kind of want to understand how the ads will be shown. And if I'm going to get conversions, like we need to be testing these things. We need to be trying them, because even if you can blow up for a 6-month period, early days, that could be everything that you need to get your business going on the right track, reviews, and to build some momentum. So as business owners, I think we need to really be digging into all of these things and always being at the forefront of these things. But as a user of ChatGPT and OpenAI, I think it's probably a negative thing and probably a bit of a warning sign.
Let's move on from the story, but I'll just close it up by saying I think every business should at the very least be asking the question, like we had SEO, which was to be optimized for search. What about AIO? So, and is my business optimized for AI optimization? What does it take to be found and recommended by the AIs organically? That is a key question. And I think we need to wait until we see what they put out, because my gut tells me that the user experience of an AI-powered ad platform could be quite different and it could be more interactive. But I think the takeaway for the audience today is pay attention fast. Don't be like, in my experience looking back, I remember when Gary Vee first said, there's a thing called TikTok and you need to pay attention. And I looked at TikTok and I went, this is just kids dancing videos. Big mistake. And Gary's been such a bellwether for those kinds of new technologies. So I would be keeping an eye on Gary's content as well around this, because it's he's usually been right. And I think we're going to see a step change in the way advertising is experienced and engaged with, and also be looking at, are you AIO? Is your AIO in order? AI optimization replacing search engine optimization. And there'll be opportunities too. I think some of these young kids will create agents that take all of the response, including the ads, into context and then interpret it for you in a way that you want it to be interpreted. All right, so let's move on to the next story, the creator economy. So this is a huge thing and one of the biggest opportunities that we see for our audience. And a lot of people, I think, don't understand it, especially slightly older people. And when they think about the creator economy, they think it's for young people only. They think of OnlyFans. They think of the types of people that sit at restaurants and take photos of their food and not enjoying their life and just pretending to enjoy their life. There is actually a legitimate opportunity for people looking for side hustles. And there are so many examples of people living great lives and earning great money on their own terms that are now unemployable because they've learned to harness the creator economy. So again, Eric, I think you've got some data on this and some frame put up.
You got Goldman Sachs has forecasted that they believe the creator economy could be at about $480 billion, be worth that by in the market by 2027. Like, we're in 2026, that's next year, right? And there's so many angles to this, right? Like, you look at this and think about back in the day when you used to have a product, right? And you'd have to go to, a TV station for a commercial, or, a radio show, publishers, these types of things. And now you're looking at products, and, there's people making millions of dollars with a, internet connection and a laptop and a video camera. And that's what the creator economy, in my opinion, really is, right? Like, the trust is shifting, in my opinion, right, to, individuals versus, corporations, operators versus institutions. And we can see it all the time. Like, look at the people that you guys listen to on YouTube, as an example. Those are creators. Like, you look at Sam Bamford, who we just had on the podcast, right? I clicked on a link on his, and it's like, hey, help support, blah, blah, blah. And you can click on the link in his bio, and he's got these, 4 different levels of subscription that you can pay him now. He's got his clothing brand that he's funding. So that's what these are, right? Like, we call them podcasters, like us, as an example. Like, we can go and say, hey guys, you know what, on this podcast now, what we're going to be doing, because we've been doing this for so long, not saying that we're doing this, but we're creating a subscription style model where we're going to be taking you in behind the scenes personally. And for that, you can pay $25 a month, and we're going to show you whatever.
A good example of that is the channel we constantly pump, which is Invest Answers with James.
Yes.
He has 570,000 subs, and then he has a paid Patreon.
Yep.
And I think people don't understand the power of creator economy. We had 2 pods last year where one guest came on and did about $4 million in sales off the back of the podcast. And another guest came on at the end of the year that did $3.5 million in sales off the back directly of the podcast from our listeners, off one podcast. These are big numbers from a podcast that started 2 years ago, and people don't understand the power of that trust and showing up.
Adam, I've got a story, and I've been pushing Eric and Perry to have an Unemployable newsletter where every podcast we plug the newsletter, and monthly the hosts write this newsletter, free newsletter to anyone who listens to the show that wants to subscribe. And monthly we put our best nuggets, the thing that we think is the biggest learning or the biggest value add that we can give the audience. And to Eric's point about then having layers or tiered paid layers, I remember when you were doing Reliable, you had your VIPs at the event, and the VIPs got to speak, there was like the rhinos got to listen to that conversation with, who's that guy that did the luggage?
Yeah.
Do you remember the guy?
Yeah, from the UK. Yeah.
And he was doing hundreds of millions of dollars selling luggage, right? Anyway, he had a conversation, and anyone that's out there doing $100 million is not just good at luggage. They actually got some pretty good life skills. You released that conversation to that group of 25 people. You released it to your premium platinum partners, which was about 600 people. I listened to that 2-hour conversation, and as a result of it, made one decision that made me $400,000 on a property development over the course of 12 months, just by getting that behind the scenes content of that one video. Right. And so I think this stuff is huge. And I don't think it's just video. I think it's written form as well. And we might start talking about Substack as well, but people are definitely starting to look for expertise.
Tell us about Substack, Mark, because so many people don't know what Substack is. I subscribe to several Substacks, but can you tell us what they are?
Yeah. So Substack is basically you would call it a social media platform, but the intent is for creators to go out there and write a newsletter or write an article or regularly write. Some people do it weekly, bi-weekly, some people do it 3 times a week, some people do it monthly, and people write these more well thought out opinion pieces or value added pieces, right? So I'm following people on politics, I'm following people on markets, people on tech, and it's a little bit more than the slop that you just get on social media posts, right? Like there's so much more thought that goes into it. But there's also the ability to have videos attached, right? And there's also the ability to have images attached. So it's like this. And what I'm seeing lately, the trend that I'm starting to see is that articles are going viral. I'm starting to see long form articles, 15, 20-minute reads that are going viral. And Mark Andreessen, which is of Andreessen Horowitz, he's the guy that famously said, before software became big, software is going to eat the world, or software is eating the world. Ironically, he now thinks software is a little bit done, but he was an early investor in Substack, and he recently posted about it, and he said, I think Substack could be 1,000 times the size of the existing content industry. Nobody ever asked for a Macintosh. Nobody asked for an iPhone. These things had to be designed and built, provided on the supply side before the demand materialized. And then the demand, of course, turned out to be far higher than anyone expected. And I think the same thing is true of media. You have this massive untapped market for high quality content in basically every domain. The existing structure of the media company was a structure that was designed for a world of centralized media. You need a new structure today. So like Eric said, these people that you're watching on YouTube are now becoming your sources of truth. If those people who are becoming the sources of truth, not everyone is going to create their own newsletter. So Substack is kind of that area where you can go and you can follow your favorite creator. So he's saying it's going to be 1,000 times bigger than the current media industry.
And we've just described where the customers are coming from for that, or the attention's coming from. Like James has said, I don't watch mainstream media. I've shut out all of social media pretty much as well. But James is not a dummy. So he's looking for content worthy of his attention, basically is what he's saying. That doesn't try to get him angry. That's not a victim of the incentive structures that are ruining the world. It's interesting because since I've stepped out over social media, what's that?
So there's not constantly trying to sell me something either.
Right.
It's one of the other clarifiers.
I think what we're going to have is we're going to have intelligent minds coalescing around deep areas of interest. So there's going to be people who are like peptide experts that like write long form Substacks, specifically staying in that one lane.
Yep.
And that audience is going to be fiercely loyal and interested. I've got a couple that I follow, and I will get that. I will allocate the 15 minutes to read it, because when I come away from it, I feel smarter, and it's about things I'm deeply interested in. I think that's a very interesting point, Mark. People going away from doom scrolling, or smart people going away from doom scrolling and looking
It is
for people.
It is by far my most favorite and most anticipated content is my Substack content. When a creator that I'm following, and I'm paying for some of them, releases a long form article, I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait. It's like watching the next episode of Stranger Things for me, because I know that there's so much intention and thought going behind the content that they're putting.
Yeah.
And again, that's why I'm pushing the boys to do an Unemployable newsletter. I'm going to start up my podcast again, and I'm going to do my newsletter based on my learnings and see how we go. But I just think it's one of those things where, I anticipate those updates so much. And and you can go across industry, right? Like there's this one guy that I would say he's at the forefront of the old macro world, like understanding how to invest in business cycles and understanding how to use prompt engineering to find the best companies moving forward in the AI infrastructure build out. And so I listen to his stuff because it's like these meeting of worlds for me. And I'm like, he's giving me prompts and he's teaching me how to do it. It's the how to, right? And now he's just released another Substack on heart rate variability. He's showing his 15-year journey to get his heart rate variability from like 30 to 80 or whatever. And I'm like, well, I trust this guy and I trust his process for learning. And heart rate variability is another thing that I'm interested in. So I subscribe to that Substack as well, because it's his method for learning and teaching that appeals. And so, yeah, I think that's where the real power of things like Substack will be.
And people,
go ahead, Adam.
No, just saying, well, I think there is a movement to quality. And if people do, I saw it happen recently with a guy who wrote an article about Bitcoin saying, is Bitcoin having its IPO moment? It was Jordi Visser.
That's Jordi Visser. That's the guy.
Yeah. So what happened is, if somebody writes a really clever insight, that can often lead to relevancy right off the back of it. So somebody writes an amazing Substack, it goes viral, then all the podcasters contact that person and say, come on our pod. And off one article, someone can blow up and blow up for the right reason, for a quality reason. And then all of a sudden you find yourself on podcasts. And then from there, you find yourself on speaking stages, and it links into the prior story of the creator economy. There are people now that are becoming creators from a hugely qualitative point of view in a niche, rather than just producing mass amounts of shit. Eric, you were going to say something.
And that's the point for the people at home, is that you don't need to be producing video or reels or funny things. You could just write hard and deeply about that thing that you're passionate about or have a curiosity or knowledge about, and that's enough.
And there's a few things here, right? Like there's reasons why it's growing so fast. Like when you think of business, right, and traditional business, like to do something like this, right? There's no, like early on, there's no staff required. It's you, right? There's no physical inventory. There's no warehouse. Okay. Overheads are low. You scale it digitally, right? It compounds over time. This is the key, guys, here. It compounds over time. This isn't going to be instant. This isn't 1 week. This isn't 1 month. This isn't 1 year. It will take time, right? But when you start, like it's like us, we've now been doing this for almost 2.5 years. It's November, right? So what are we now? January, right? So
23.
2 years, 3 months, right? 2 years, 4 months or so. We've been doing this, right? Like we're a perfect example of Unemployable podcast, right? Now we're doing events. Now we're doing coaching. We're doing different collaborations, right? But like, let's give you a practical example, right, of a non-influencer. So someone that doesn't have, 100,000 followers or 1 million followers or whatever it is, right? So like, think of yourself. So if you're a property investor, right, and you go, okay, I'm going to share my weekly lessons on YouTube, and let's hope, and on my Instagram, and there's going to be 1 follower and then 2 followers and so on, right? You then start a podcast, whether it's once a month, whether it's once a week, whatever you do, right? And then you start interviewing people. You then build an email list, right? And that's similar to what we've been doing, right? We build email lists, we do events, right? Click on the register your details, you get an email. Now when Mark says, hey, let's send newsletters out, well, guess what? We don't have newsletters to send out to one person. We have newsletters to send out to thousands of people. And then all of a sudden you create a community so you can, do coaching or subscription style model. But then what happens is the bigger picture is all of a sudden later, because you've got this deal flow, you've got all these people coming in, all of a sudden you could set up a fund if you wanted to. And that's where it starts, right? So you start, and then eventually step by step by step by step over time. And we're doing this in real time. Mark and I are working on something on the side, which is going to be something very similar, which is, the content creation piece, get the attention and go through this whole kind of practical example, like I just explained to you. So let's think about it like this, right? The key, and I think you mentioned this before, when we were talking last podcast, Adam, when we were talking about building personal brand. And one of the mistakes that you made was not going niche, right? A little bit, a lot about a lot as an example, right? So rather than going niche and going, I'm this person, right? And we're kind of doing that a little bit on the plug, where we talk a bit about property, we talk a bit about wealth creation, we talk about business and politics and different things. But think about it as like not business content or not property investing. Think about it as like, you're helping Aussie tradies buying their first property. So you're a tradie, right? And you're doing it. So instead of going, hey, I'm going to go and teach everybody to buy investment property. No, I'm just going to teach tradies. And I'm going to give you an example. A friend of mine, right? Paul, he's a tradie. You know who he is, Mark, right? He's a tradie and he's big into Bitcoin now. He's big into Tesla. He's big into, 2 years ago, he wouldn't have known about it, but he starts listening to podcasts and different things and gets inspired. And he's teaching me about it now. He knows more about things than I do because his wife is telling him, you know what, we used to watch Netflix shows. Now I'm scared that he's going to be like, hey babe, you want to watch the shareholders meeting with Elon on Tesla? Like that's what all he watches now. So he's teaching me, but I'm like, man, like what you should be doing, right, is you're a plumber, you're talking to trades. Most trades don't talk about this stuff, but guess who they're going to listen to? They're going to listen to me. They're going to listen to you, right? Because you're relatable. And these are the things. So if he wanted to, as an example, I'm not saying that he would, but this is a perfect example of going, you know what, actually, you're right. I know a lot about this stuff. I can actually talk about this stuff now, and I can target a specific audience, right? So
Eric, remember when we were in Dubai and we were told the story of the guys that came in as Javanese or Sri Lankan labor that were working in the work camps?
Yep.
And he got a hold of a smartphone and started documenting his day.
I follow him now.
Yeah.
And now the guy is working as an influencer in the economic zone in Dubai, where the government are funding him into his own studio to produce content. So he started as a Bangladeshi laborer on those sites, and now he's got his own company in an economic zone in Dubai specifically to support creators. That's the power of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Guess who's following him? I guess loads of other laborers that are on those sites, and now he's liberated himself.
So the biggest thing here, right, is the belief in yourself that goes, you know something and you're passionate about something. But the thing is, most of us, it goes, who the hell is going to listen to me? And I was in that same mindset 2.5 years ago. Yeah, this is a good idea, Unemployable, but like, who's going to listen to us? Who's going to listen to me? I've just been building businesses and investment portfolios in behind the scenes. No one knows who I am, right? But once you get that belief, or someone that believes in you and goes, you know what, you got to tell your story, and you hear that over and over and over again, all of a sudden it's like, you know what, yes, I am that, I am that mom, but you know what, I'm actually bought an investment property, and I'm going to teach other moms that they're going to buy their investment property, because moms listen to moms and moms hang out with moms. You know what I mean? We don't have to be everything to everyone.
Brooke's a great example. She was a school teacher, and then she learned to do remote sales, and now she teaches other women how to do remote sales. Just women, how to do remote sales, does millions of dollars a year, and now lives in Bali.
The creator economy, right, is really the shift, right, from institutions owning the attention, right, to individuals right? Gaining trust and distribution without TV stations, without radio shows on your, on these platforms that you're creating your own angle on. And that's where we are heading. We are now trusting people more than we are trusting the actual companies, and it's powerful. And we're living it in real life with Unemployable.
We
Just
still
on
come from that, but
Just on that one quickly, sorry, just close it off. Everyone's probably heard of Anthony Robbins, right? You know, the premier world's best life coach, whatever. He was on a podcast with the Moonshots crew, and the Moonshots crew are basically these legendary geeks that come on and talk about AI and like the most forefront topics of artificial intelligence and where it's going. Anyway, he comes on because he's friends with Peter Diamandis, the showrunner, and he says, what they ask, what are the things that people need to learn to survive and thrive in the AI transition? And Anthony Robbins said these two things. He said, number one, learn to view yourself as a creator. All right. So for people out there saying, I'm not a creator, it's not for me. I think the essence of being human is creativity. It's creativity and love. That's what makes us different from animals and everything else, buildings and all other atoms and things in the world. It is creativity. So everyone is creative. Learn to view yourself as that. And the second thing he says is resolve to be a person who determines to find a way. And with those two things, you have everything required to win in this transitional world that we're moving into.
And talking about the creator economy and podcasts and the non-mainstream media, or you talk about Tony Robbins. He used to you couldn't not miss him on the infomercials. He was all over conventional television. Now he's doing right now. If you look at it, he just did one with Alex Hermosi yesterday. I watched that at about 2:00 this morning. He was on Joe Rogan. He's just doing the rounds on all of the
Building an event.
Probably building his profile again. I think
he's got an event coming up.
Oh, 100% for sure. But I'm saying you've got Tony Robbins was formerly pretty much untouchable or hard to access on some it was on Theo Von as well. I mean, the comedian, he's doing all of the headline podcast to build his profile, correct, Mark, for an event. But he's using the non-mainstream media or the creator economy platforms to build his brand again, I would say.
And for business owners, that's why I think ads, you shouldn't become reliant on ads. Like, I think there's a lot of successful entrepreneurs, e-commerce guys who you're seeing have tried to start new brands after they hit it big with their first brand, back in 2018 to 2022. And they've tried to start all these other brands, self-included, right? And these other brands have failed. And you're now starting to see those stories come to light. And that's because the macro is changing. The model is changing. We went through a boom in demand, and we had like advertising, which was relatively cheap. There was an arbitrage there. Now that advertising is becoming flooded and the demand is coming off.
I'm shocked, Mark, that we are not inundated with more businesses trying to give us money. I'm shocked because so many of our guests are like those guys that came on last year and did 3.5 million in sales off one pod. When what the hell just happened? They said, we've been running ads, we've been doing this. When you come on your podcast, we did $3.5 million in sales. And not only that, every fucking appointment, our salespeople were fighting over doing them because the unemployable audience were the nicest people. They were the most educated because they just watched an hour of our founders on the podcast.
Yep.
We're running ads and getting shit leads and getting nowhere near the conversion. And I hear this over and over and over again. And people don't realize, like, we're selling, I mean, I'll tell you numbers. I think last month we did $10 million of Bitcoin transactions last month from our audience, right? Like, people don't understand that the size and scale of attention. And so you've got to take it seriously, guys.
And not for business owners, this is advice for business owners. Not every business owner needs to go out there and start a podcast, but to Adam's point, you need to align yourself with podcasts, because I know the company you're talking about that generated those affiliate commissions, and they've built their business off the back of aligning with small podcasts that are aligned to their mission and to their offering. By far, in 2026, podcasts are the most underpriced media and attention. And
couldn't agree more.
Newsletters equals the capture plus conversion and ownership of that client.
And
It's even like this little consumer product that I've got on my Discord. This is one of our followers that we showcased. I just did a shout out for that, and they did thousands of dollars of sales of these electric toothbrushes. I wasn't getting paid, no affiliate commission. They're like, holy shit, we're spending all this money on ads. Boom, sales straight away from trust.
and you know what, that reminds me. Let's remind people again. I want to continue to do this. We talked about it, then we just stopped talking about it. If anyone does have any cool products, right, that they want us to advertise on Unemployable on the Friday podcast, right? We'll just do it for now. We're just going to do it for
Why don't we
local
open it up
businesses.
to content ideas as well, Eric? Why don't we, like anyone out there that's writing an interesting newsletter or producing interesting content? Like, we're probably getting to the end of there's a saturation of products out there. I want to hear from people who have really exciting educational information.
A good example of that, Mark, is one of our listeners who started his own YouTube channel that's niched into teaching people how to create AI music. Matt St. Orange down in Melbourne.
Yes.
And he started that channel as a side hustle, and now he's getting sponsored by Suno, which is one of the biggest AI companies in the world in the music space. Is it Suno or Sunos or something?
Sonos, the speakers?
No,
Yeah,
it is
Suno.
Suno, yeah, it's an AI music tool. So yeah, let us know. Keep those flowing in. DM.
Yeah. So if you guys have any good ideas or service-based businesses or products, or let's just start with getting some emails. Send it to hello, HELLO at unemployable.com.au, and we'll get the team to vet through them, and then we can we could discuss it.
I'll just give this a shout out as an example. This is the Jambuvi toothbrush, JAMBUVI. Simon and Tammy, who are listeners of the show. The reason I showcased it is look at the. Oh no, that's coming up, but that's a red light therapy built into a toothbrush. So you clean your teeth, and at the same time, it's doing red and blue light therapy in your mouth as you clean. So it's killing bacteria, stimulating blood flow, and I did a shout out because I'm the best guy to endorse anything to do with teeth, right? But I've been using the same
I just put two and two together.
Yeah. They're like Adam's the guy when it comes to teeth, but I had not like an Oral-B or a toothbrush. I'd had for years and years electric toothbrush, and then I replaced this, and it was one of those moments as a guy where you're like, why didn't I do this sooner? Like, when you finally get convinced to go buy some new undies and some new clothes, you're like, I don't know why I don't do this more often. I feel so good. This thing, that the advancement in toothbrush tech is enormous. Buy one of these. They're $200 or something, but they're amazing. And I love using it every day. So go and use it. But let us know, guys. Now, moving on to the last subject, because I want to cover this one as well. Oh, by the way, if you didn't see it, Lewis Howes had Tony Robbins on his Instagram. And Lewis Howes is a really famous influencer as well. But he did a tour of Tony Robbins' new house in Los Angeles.
Next level.
It is out of control. Like, if you haven't seen it, go to Lewis Howes' Instagram, and you can see this video I'm holding up right now. But the whole episode is on Lewis's channel, where you just go through this insane mansion that Tony
Like a shopping center.
It's like a shopping center. It's wild. It's
just caveat. That's one of his insane houses globally.
Well, he's a billionaire now. He bought $110 million Global Express jet. He's done very well. Good on him. So moving on to close it out, you talked about this, and this one touches on one of my passions, which is, that the world should be getting cheaper, but it's for years, it's been getting more expensive, because baked into the system with broken money is inflation. Everything's getting more expensive because the governments keep printing more damn money out of thin air, right? But Musk came out during the week and made a comment about deflation. Eric, you've got the headline. Let's just talk about this quickly to close it out, because it is a bit of hope on horizon around living costs. What did Elon say?
So it was actually a Mark that put it in our chat. So I'll mention it.
Maybe you can do it.
Yeah. If you want, Mark, you want to
You want to take
mention it,
this?
because I thought that was quite interesting. I can talk about it if you want to then go on
just
from
pay it up.
So basically it was Elon Musk talking about deflation. So basically he reckons in the US, double-digit growth in the next 12 to 18 months, if they actually imply the intelligence if they include the implied intelligence for economic growth. And he says that, in the next years, it could be actual triple-digit growth over the next 5 years, which will actually bring things down in value. So we'll make living actually cheaper. That would be
That's powered by AI.
and then which will make banks wish that they could actually print money at that point in time, which they're not going to be able to. So, Mark, what are your
So
thoughts?
I've got a contrarian take to what we're seeing in the comments. Everyone is talking about how inflation is a problem, and it is, and migration is an issue, and it is. But my pick is that when the productivity gains from AI truly takes hold, we are going to be begging for more immigration and begging for more money printing, because the rate of deflation on everything because of AI is going to be so severe. And if you know anything about macroeconomics, you know that deflation is actually more detrimental to a society and to our wealth and prosperity than inflation is, right? If you go back and you have a look at the depression of 29 to 32, that was a massive deflation, right? And so the cost of houses, the cost of services, everything is going to come down so much that and the productivity of companies is going to be so great that GDP is going to be the wrong figure, because GDP is a figure that depends on employment. But if
What is GDP, Mark? Just
well, it's
for
gross,
anyone that-
it's gross domestic product, right? And there's a bunch of things that are included
It's
in
what a
GDP.
country produces every year.
It's what it's right? And now a country's ability to produce is going to be so much greater. But in the past, GDP could only grow with labor force growth. So one of the tricks that the Australian government has done for the last 25 years in order to avoid recession is bring in temporary residents, because temporary residents increase GDP. It's the productive capacity in the economy, and they don't have pension benefits. So it's this trick that the Australian government has been doing. I argue that that is worse than migration, because there's something like 2.9 million temporary residents in Australia. But if all of a sudden productivity is coming from machines and artificial intelligence rather than the people, well, then what is GDP going to be? That is going to be an old and outdated model. And so the reason that you're going to be begging for money printing is because if machines are doing all the work that humans previously were, who's going to be the safety net left to look after the society that's unemployed? Well, it's the government. And so the government is going to need to print and print and print shit tons of money to feed that society, which they will do, because that's what will happen. And you're going to be begging for immigration to do the jobs that you don't want to do, right? Like we're going through a re-industrialization. The bottom layer stack of AI is energy and infrastructure. None of the rest of it, the applications, the LLMs, they're like above chips and above. So you've got energy, then you've got chips, then you've got storage, then you've got the LLMs and stuff, and then you've got applications. So the bottom layer needs to be rebuilt. There's trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars that need to go into rebuilding this infrastructure. So the jobs that are going to increase in wage growth are going to be trade jobs, welding, electricians, plumbing, people that are building out this infrastructure. White collar jobs are going to be stuffed, but the productivity is going to come from all those businesses that are going to be able to produce things for the cost of nothing, right?
I was listening to a guy, prominent digital marketer, like the godfather of digital marketing. He's now gone into that more so M&A, and he puts out his top 50 predictions a year. Eric, we were talking about this last night at dinner about what he's looking at now, and whilst data centers are all the big the big play in real estate at the moment. His bigger play is the ancillary market off the side of that. They're buying construction companies, they're buying concreting, electrician, plumbing, HVAC, or and the like, and just going bananas on that, rolling those up and flipping them. But getting back to that, that's a whole other conversation and about energy. And it's talking about another hit prediction was that you now can, and it is in America, let's say an industrial plant or a data center, for argument's sake, for about $2 to $3 million, you can actually buy your own nuclear reactor and have it installed by side your industrial plant, because the biggest thing with these data centers is power, which is going to starve the energy grid and the energy market, right? So mum and dad only get squeezed out. So, maybe there's an implementation or a forced implementation of self-reliant energy for these said data centers. But again, to your point about deflation, and one of his predictions was universal basic income or universal high income. He was predicting Alaska will be the first state that implements it. Is probably more than likely going to happen in 2026. So interesting to see how that actually unfolds about exactly that, where you get paid for because you're not effectively required.
And it's all linked, right? Like if all these people that were kind of knowledge workers become one-man band entrepreneurs, they are not going to have to work 9 to 5. They're not going to have to work as much, right? So everything we're talking about is all linked, right? You got all these creators, all these knowledge workers that are going and have their one-man band set up. They're not going to be working as much. You've got tradies that are already in short supply. So the contrarian take out there is that this AI build out, this AI thing is going to create a labor shortage. And then you've already seen it with computers and laptops and screens. The price of all these things is just coming down. So the call out for those out there listening, thinking, well, how can I make money from this? It's to invest in scarcity. You have to invest in scarcity in an era where everything is going to be abundant. So what are the raw materials? Right.
Yeah, this is where the Substacks come in handy, is understanding
Yeah,
what are those raw materials. People that go deep on
copper, silver, gold. You're already starting to see these things, right?
And that goes to show you, like, when we talk about this and we go, okay, Macro Mark, take it away, right? Like, this information isn't just him, pulling it out of his ass. This is of him reading these newsletters from the Substacks. This is from him doing this deep research and putting in the work, and then adding that. Like, every time I sit here and we talk about certain topics, I'm just like, man, you know a lot of stuff because you're doing the deep research, right?
That's
and,
why,
and that's what it's about, is taking the time. Correct. And that's where he makes his money. And then he's going, I just made this, with this trade or that trade. And that's what it's about. So
yeah, I think I need to kind of take my own advice, and like, I'm not so great at passing on what I've learned or explaining what I've learned. This is where I kind of need to take my own advice and get better at maybe written form and putting everything that I've learned, everything that I think is connected, into one article with a nice catchy title that the everyday person can read, and that's, in real time, us trying to work out how to navigate our way through this new world.
there's so much money to go ahead.
I was going to say, and the other thing there with the Substacks of the world, the creator economy and whatnot, there is now so much of it. It's who do you listen to is the other part of, because you can get caught up in the quagmire of this just tidal wave of info, and you go, it's all too much. I don't know where to start. So, I mean,
you got to find what you're interested in. Like, there are YouTube creators and Substack creators that just focus on rare earths. There are people that just focus on emerging robotics companies. There are people like CERN Basher, who are like Tesla analyst experts that just produce YouTube videos on just Tesla stock. And you can get rich off one, if you want to have a diversified portfolio, in 2 or 3 areas of interest, and that's all you stick in. I've met people that are just Tesla investors or just rare earth investors and so on, and they do great. But it's an exciting time. I'm going to close it out with some stats here to just show you what's happening outside of the Gold Coast or outside of Melbourne. This was a slide from James at Invest Answers that did a review on XAI year in a review, just to show you what Mark was talking about, with the base layer being energy and infrastructure for these things. In the last 12 months, XAI expanded from 1 site to 5 sites in the Mid-South. They went from 450,000 active GPUs across sites. They reached 450,000 with construction in progress to double that number by Q2 of 2026. So last year they had 450,000 GPUs. They'll double it. 3,000 people working right now, tradesmen and women from the region, 24/7, around the clock, 365 days a year, building the largest supercomputers on Earth faster than ever before. They installed 244,000 miles of fiber. This is XAI. In Q1, they're expecting to double that. They've installed 15 miles of cooling water piping in the last 12 months. And in 42 days, they went from powering their first GB300 to scaling to phase 2 clusters of more than 100,000 in 42 days. So this is like massive works going on to power this revolution.
And this is the reason why Grok and XAI will not fail, because they are, of all the AI models, they are the largest infrastructure builder and owner of all of them. People misunderstand Elon Musk's genius. Perhaps his biggest circle of genius is his ability to build at scale. That is what differentiates him from everyone else. He's not like a genius engineer versus everybody else. He has the ability to build better than anybody else. And one more thing that I'll leave you guys with, the significance of why Elon Musk is building what Adam just rolled out is to replace software. He wants to build. This is what it's going to take to replace software, to have an application in your phone that you can talk to, that can then go out and program and design products for you, requires the infrastructure that he's building. And so all this stuff is coming, guys, and there's so much opportunity. You just cannot be asleep at the wheel.
I had dinner last night here in Bali with a guy who works for one of the largest software companies in the world, top 20 in the world, and a woman who's ex-Macquarie Bank and dealing in deep, big data. That she has a consultancy. She has like 3 or 4 clients that are huge corporates, and she helps them understand their data. And this is exactly what they said, is that software is dying. Software as a service is dying. It's all changing. So huge opportunity. So when I see people going, I can't get rich because Australian house prices are out of reach, I'm like, dude, you have Tesla. You have the greatest minds to ever live on the planet right now, and you can invest in them and get rich.
And to just one other point on that, what's dying and talking about that and that infrastructure, the way that Mark's talking to that, the guy I referenced to before, his top 50 predictions had SaaS companies. He said SaaS is dead. So software, they missed the service part. That's all gone. Months of recurring revenue, forget it. That'll be all gone. People don't want to pay and get fucked over by this Frankenstein of apps that they pay month to month in any company anymore. You'll either build your own and weave it together with a N or a Make or something along those lines. And Silicon Valley is now going through a massive, there's going to be so many funds that are just going to get tipped upside down that are so top heavy on SaaS that hasn't come to market or life. That's just going to be just match, burn, light it up, move on. And it's going to,
if you want a homework project for the week, guys, Google or ChatGPT or Grok it, RAS, R-A-S, and it means results as a service. It is the rising trend out of China, and companies are going to firms and saying, pay us based on results. We have AI bots that will set appointments, make sales, complete end-to-end results for you. Tell us the result you want. We will build the AI to deliver it, and you pay us only when we produce the result. That's where it's going, and it's a rising trend right now in China.
And they'll be small companies because they're doing a lot of the results of the work with AI, like Anthropic, Claude, etc. Where that postmark you put in, where the CEO of Anthropic came and said, coding will be obsolete, or whatever the words were, by the in the 20s. Oh yeah, we're cooked. Like
there'll be people that start legal firms that specify in divorce, and you say, I'm worth this. My outcome is I want a result of a payout of X, and I'll pay you results of service, get the AI agents onto it. That's one example of any millions of iterations of results that people want in their lives that can be delivered through AI. And it'll be results as a service, not software as a service.
Yeah, 100%. Elon Musk is rarely wrong on direction. Timing is where he sometimes struggles. But I think now with the advancement of everything being kind of, AI is kind of predetermining and building software and building programs and things like that, that the timing, it gets easier to predict. But you've only got to look at that big data center, the biggest one in the world. What he called it macro hard, as opposed to micro soft.
A big fuck you to his mate.
There is so much signal in that. And one other tidbit, there's what I'm finding lately is that I'll watch a 30-minute or a 90-minute or a 60-minute podcast, and there'll be 1 or 2 things that someone like Elon Musk, Jensen Huang, Dario Samodai, like people, these are the people that are at the forefront. They don't just have ringside seats. They are playing the basketball game that you're watching. And every now and then they'll drop one sentence. If my homework for you guys is to take that, if you can try and identify that one sentence in these podcasts they drop, take it, put it in, and build a prompt in a language, in an LLM, to go and deep dive the second and third and fourth order effects of what that thing that they said actually means. You guys will be blown away at the amount of alpha and opportunity that you can find.
The amount of money you can make. Guys, that is it for this week. I hope you have enjoyed it. There's an episode of the Sat Signal coming out on Sunday that you should watch if you're a Bitcoiner, where I had Bish on. We talk about what's going on with the Bitcoin price, and how one leading analyst said this week that it could go to $60,000 or less. We dive into that, so make sure you don't miss Sunday's episode. If you've enjoyed the podcast today, please like, subscribe, drop us a comment. We'd love your feedback, and we will see you in the next episode. Well, I won't. I'm going to be signing off on the Friday pods as of today. It's been a joy up to this point. And guys, that was a great episode, and long may these continue. Well done.
Can we make one? Can we twist your arm for like a Christmas request to come and do a little cameo and come back every now and again, Adam?
Yeah. No, I'll come back when I've got lots I'm doing as well, just in a different stage of my life that you might want to come back and talk about. Building houses and hotels and different things. So, yeah, definitely.
I just want to end it with one last thing, which I probably should have said it earlier, but I've got so entangled into this conversation, such interesting stuff. At Unemployable Property, we have an event coming up on March 7th and March 8th on the Gold Coast in Burleigh Heads at the brand new 5-star luxury Mondrian Hotel. It's called Find, Fund, and Develop. So finding property, creating strategies with little to no money in the property development space. It's going to be an awesome event. There's a lot of tickets already being sold as we speak. And we're going to continue doing a lot of advertising for that. Shannon and Carson, we've got amazing speakers. Michael Matusik, who's one of the lead demographers in the actual in this space in the country, is going to be speaking, as well as successful students that have been doing some epic developments and making some half decent money doing it along the way. And there's going to be a few hundred people in the room, so it's going to be very, very exciting. Go to www.unemployableproperty.com.au/event, and we'll put a link in the description as well. And it's going to be a great event, so make sure you go.
It's really, I just want to point out, it's not expensive, and it'll be tip-top food. The cost of this
fully catered. Yeah,
it's fully catered with great food, and the cost of the event really is just to cover the event. I think it's like $500 or something, isn't it? How much?
Yeah, it's $695, and that includes the networking on the Saturday night at the pool deck as well. Fully catered.
That's what it costs to do these things. I'm telling you right now, it's hundreds of dollars just for food.
I was just about to say, Adam saw the run schedule, and the content is going to be banger. It's going to be proper, and the actual cost of the event is at break even. If we hit numbers, so it's not a money-making exercise at all for us, but it's going to be a hell of an event. The content that we've laid out for it in the order that it has, I don't think it's going to be ever been put forward in this fashion in the country. So it's going to be a cracker.
I reviewed the content for the guys because my background is in these types of events, of course, and I rarely review an event schedule and don't suggest a lot of changes. And the reason I was so excited about it is because it's packed with stuff like this. I don't know if you see it on the camera, but basically it's real deal breakdowns of the guys that have actually done it. They show you the photos, they show you the site, they show you what they pay for it, they show you how they got the funding, they show you everything end to end. And it's deals that everybody, including people who don't have money at all, could do by virtue of what they learn at the event and the people they meet. So the fact that it's a live event in Burleigh Heads for under $1,000, including food, you'd be mad not to go. All right, guys, and hope you enjoyed that one. Please help us grow the pod by sharing it if you're finding it value. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all your contributions today, guys. And most of all, thanks for all the support over the years till now. And long may it continue. It's going to be a great future coming up. Bye for now.
Thank you, Adam. Thanks, guys.
My pleasure. Cheers, guys. Hey there. I hope you enjoyed that episode of Unemployable. If you'd like to watch another episode, just click there.